As we finish this 4th season of Community, I don't think I'm the only person who regards this as both the weakest and most controversial season yet. Something has clearly changed between this, and the easy route out of having to think about any of it is just to say that it isn't funny, that it just isn't funny anymore. While this is true to a certain extent, it's sadly the tip of a tall, sad and crumbling iceberg. Frankly, it would be remiss to start anywhere else but here. It's no secret that the creator of this show was either unceremoniously dumped or decided to take a more backseat role in production before work on the 4th season began, depending on who you listen to, but people may not be aware that his departure was the start of an exodus that took a number of vital off-screen talents. Their influences, specifically Harmon's, were sorely lacking in this season. His knowledge and passion for pop culture was splashed across the canvas of the first 3 seasons, as they are across all of his work. Without Harmon's pitch-perfect frame of reference around which to build the show, it seems to stumble blindly from reference to reference which they think may appeal to the geek audience cultivated by Harmon. Comic-Con, Muppets, Die Hard, tick, tick, tick. It shows a fundamental lack of understanding of the thrill of the show, not appealing to the broadest possible base in your references, but having whole scenes devoted to bare-naked ladies arguments, or one character dressed as a 1970s serial mascot for no discernible reason. These topics aren't classically geek topics, it's the detailed love for obscure minutiae that brought in that fanbase, not broad nods to commonly appreciated subjects. Even when the show did go in for more mainstream topics like Goodfellas or Apollo 11, they didn't name the films, they didn't recreate the scenes, they parodied the concept. There was a world of difference between using chicken fingers to make a subtle, loving homage to a genre, and having the Dean burst through a curtain on a chariot screaming the Hunger Deans, and the fact the writers can't see that that's a violent shift in tone is astonishing. Speaking of which, Abed. What a complex man. A clear sufferer of Asperger's, expressing himself in a stream of pop culture references through which he can rationalise the world around him, blaming himself for his parents' divorce, a father who both loves him and attempts to control him. He has the intelligence and insight to know how the world sees him and fear a future alone. Only one person with whom he can truly be comfortable, but knowing that his more normal persona will eventually see him abandon Abed for a wife. What a tragically complicated character. Ah, no, wait, he's just a comedy foil who knows he's on a TV show. That's much more palatable. Once again, the problem here is so deep-seated, so fundamental to the core of the show, that it shouldn't be possible to get it wrong unless you truly don't know the show at all. Abed views the world around him through the filter of TV show mechanics. He does not think he's on a TV show. He certainly doesn't know he's on Community. Having him state, "I remember when this was a show about a community college," to camera, or casually mention the fact that we're in season 4, is completely out of character to anyone who knows that man. It both simplifies him to an obtuse, winking through the fourth wall caricature, and shaves off all those rough, unpleasant edges that would make you have to think about his illness and his future, making Community that much more middle of the road for the average American male audience. Fantastic. Sadly, Abed may be the most obvious case of the characters changing like this, but he's far from the only one. The Dean's just a cross-dresser who fancies Jeff. Troy's just stupid. Pierce is just old. Every character becoming a one-dimensional pastiche of previous catchphrases and attempts to use big set pieces to infuse the show with some heart are way off base. Just think about it. This used to be a show that was filled with emotional depth in the most simple of situations. A show that made people care about the characters more than any sitcom in years. Troy's description of Annie after his birthday brought tears to my eyes. Shirley and Britta's storyline in the first season of Halloween was deeply moving. This, however, was cringeworthy. The problem goes even further than this when you consider the amount of empathy in the show. Ever since day one, the characters have always been grounded in reality during the culminating insanity of each episode. Of course, Dan Harmon said it best. Greendale's a crazy place, like Midsummer Night's Dream. The woods are magical, but the people are real. Their relationships to each other have to be real. This rule has managed to keep real human characters going through the craziness of Greendale until this season. Take Intro to Felt Surrogacy, for example. Why was nobody bothered that they had lost Pierce in the forest and not seen him for days? This is serious stuff. They lost him for one night once and he took an overdose and ended up in hospital and they were devastated. Now I'm supposed to just pass off the fact that he's been lost in the woods and none of them care? Once again, the problem is not a simple one-episode plot hole, it's symptomatic of so much more. Of course, the real reason behind this particular plot hole is due to one person. Take a bow, you magnificent prick. There's a lot to say about Chevy and the way he's acted over the course of the last year, but honestly, had it not impacted the show, I wouldn't even have bothered mentioning it. But it did! This jerk straight up refused to act for a handful of episodes, in one case even forcing the show to replace him with a stunt double Pierce, and he barely put in an effort for the entire season on the days that he bothered showing up. His clear and present disdain for the show and creators is summed up perfectly in the way he allowed his character to leave. Not a single moment of the last episode was recognisable as Pierce, and when it came to the end, he simply walks up and declares that he's graduating. It would be easy to blame this on the writing staff, sure, but this isn't the case. Chevy pushed for that to happen by declaring he was leaving early, and then when they put that line in front of him, he didn't care one jot, he just said it and walked away. The last hurrah for Pierce, the songwriting, Vicky-hating, sneeze-mastering, paintball-owning badass, was "I'm ready to graduate first." That's it. If you're going to take everything into account, sure, there have been positive moments in this season, of course there have. Certain episodes and concepts were well played, and specifically one actor was hitting every single line out of the park. But for my money, there hasn't been one single moment past the first episode that has been anything other than expensive, poorly done fanfiction to a show that I used to love, and I genuinely resent the fact that they have forced me to waste over 4 hours of my life growing that much more cynical and hopeless watching this shit rather than let it die. I would kill for 2 more seasons and a movie's worth of Community. Of course I would. But I would rather kill someone than sit through 2 more seasons and a movie's worth of whatever the hell this season has been. So NBC, thanks for raping the last remnant of intelligent and innovative comedy on your channel, and kindly go